Hey, lighten up, jerk!
So what? Who was it that suggested like you kind of get help? Did anyone like kind of, hey, I think you should go see somebody or talk to somebody, or did you find out like did the pressure from those around you like, or did you kind of go seek it out yourself?
I mean, like the thing is, like for a couple of years, I knew that I wasn't like, like functioning well, where like career-wise, like I was doing okay, like I was getting stuff done and felt really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just I mean, there'd be some weekends when like I just didn't recover at all. Like you could sleep all you want, you can relax and like entertain yourself all you want, but just feel absolutely drained, like for months on end.
Mm-hmm.
Like going through like waves of like just not normal mood.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I always kind of knew like I should see somebody about this, but I don't know. You never want to like admit like, okay, I gotta deal with this.
It's a pride
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally. Because like there'd be times where like things were good for a while, and then there'd be times where things are bad for a while. And I was just hoping like maybe I could like do something to like maybe I could get stronger in some way, or like get more like courage with things in some way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, like it just never would work, and like my mood was like pretty like down for like a period of a couple of years. Yeah, so I always like suspected like, okay, I've got some sort of depression. Didn't really look at it, and didn't really. There were a couple of times when I met with my like primary care physician, and in the back of my mind, that like every checkup, I was like, oh man, maybe I should talk to this guy about my mood. Because like I was comfortable saying like, oh, I'm stressed.
Right.
And I think 3 years before this, like my blood pressure started getting out of control, and I was comfortable saying like, oh yeah, I was like stressed, and he was like,
Yeah,
oh
for
yeah,
a very like short period of time, but nothing
Yeah.
prolonged or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah,
And it was this temporary thing where my blood pressure was high. I was on beta blockers for a while, which helps like lower blood pressure.
Right.
And I just chalked it up to stress. Didn't think about like mood disorders or like depression or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping that was it.
Right.
But every time like I had an annual checkup, I was like, man, maybe I should like talk to him. Maybe this is the time I should like talk to him. So I think a year before the actual breakdown happened on my like last checkup, this was like the most like sideways way of like asking for resources. I was like, oh yeah, like sometimes I get like stressed. Like does Kaiser have like some sort of like mental health thing? And he gave me like a referral card,
Uh-huh.
and I left it on my refrigerator for like months on end.
Right.
But like I don't know, like that card was always there, but I was like, things aren't bad enough to where I need this. Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like I think about that a lot. Like maybe if I like followed up then, things wouldn't have got like so extreme. But like yeah, like I just had it up there, so like when I went through that like week-long period of like things being really bad, yeah, I had that like referral card, so I called. It actually isn't a short process to see somebody.
Yeah.
So I called one person. They do like an over-the-phone interview, and then after that, they schedule like a face-to-face like appointment with a mental health clinician, just to like further assess like what kind of help you may need. And then from there, you schedule things with like therapy groups or psychiatrists, like depending on like what comes of that like clinician thing.
Right.
So from the time I made the first call to the time I actually saw someone in person was about, I want to say like a week and a half. And
So-
yeah.
Oh, I was gonna, so kind of assessment period before you actually like sat like, because everyone thinks like typically like you go to see a shrink or something, then you go sit in front of someone like right away. But I think
Oh, no, like, so that's what the phone thing is.
Right,
so that
right.
referral card I got from my primary care physician, you basically call to, like, or this is how, like, Kaiser Permanente works. They're kind of, like, bureaucratic.
Yeah.
But, like, I like them because they're, like, pretty efficient. But you call them, and over the phone, they do, like, initial intake. Say, like, what are your symptoms?
Right.
Like, are you suicidal? Do you have, like, self-harm? And once you answer that, they kind of, like, sort, like, what the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
best
yeah.
step is. So from the phone call, they were like, okay, you could probably benefit from seeing somebody. They set that up. I think it took about 10 days. And then once I sat in with the clinician, it's like this hour-long like diagnostics thing.
Yeah.
So the weird thing with like mental health, it's like very subjective.
Right.
But when you get diagnosed, it's very objective. It's like 1 to 10 scales. And like
Right, yeah.
within the last 10
So
days,
it's kind of
if
like
you feel-
regular medicine, because like my cousin's a doctor, and she's like, you know, because one time I asked her, yeah, is that pain chart thing real? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess that they translated that also into mental health.
Yeah, it's crazy because like after I sat with the clinician, like I think there's like this maybe like 50 like questionnaire that you answer, and then once you answer that, like the clinician like processes it, and then he asks you like further follow-up questions, and then there's like a quantitative like breakdown of score. And yeah, like after he answered those questions, he's like, yeah, you're pretty depressed. But honestly, like even that like realization of like, oh man, like the answers I put into this like computer, I answered as truthfully as possible, and for it to like output like, oh man, you're dealing with like major depression. That was eye-opening. Like that was interesting. But also, like, sitting in with a clinician, like, he was, like, the first guy that, like, he was the first professional I saw face-to-face.
Right.
And after he did the score, like, he looked at me and goes, you're obviously, like, not doing well. Like, no, for, like, a person to, like, say that and, like, hear it, that helped out a lot.
Because
it-
it's a recognition of what you're feeling on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you
don't feel crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like a crazy person.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, maybe it's because, like, he was a professional and he probably saw a case like this before. For him to say, like, oh, man, you're going through a tough time, like, that, like, was super helpful. And, yeah, from there, like, I got plugged into, like, Kaiser Permanente. Like, I love their, like, mental health network because it's so awesome. Like, they have this, like, 3-week thing for depression and mood disorders. It's a group therapy thing called IOP, which is like intensive outpatient. I forgot what the P is, but it's group therapy for people with like mood disorders, and it's 3 weeks long. They meet 3 times a week, and each session is like 3 hours. So it's like 27 hours of like therapy over the course of 3 weeks, and it's absolutely free. It was like covering
wow.
with a copay. So like the whole myth of like, you know, or the myth that like I heard, like once you get plugged into therapy, you're in it forever.
Right.
Not true. And-
Not all cases.
Right, not all cases. And like, you know, that therapy is like really expensive. Not all cases.
Right.
I mean, I ended up seeing a psychiatrist, and I was on medication for about 7 months. And that thing about like, oh, once you're on medication, you stay on it forever, not necessarily true. Like, antidepressants or like mood regulators, they're incredibly expensive. Also not true. Like, I think in 7 months, I spent something like maybe $30
Oh,
on
wow.
generics, like
On
through the
generic
copay.
stuff.
That's
Yeah.
not too bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, so a lot of the like or a lot of the thoughts I had about like what mental health like treatment was, like yeah, some of those like are kind of unfounded.
Do you think that
Potentially.
also may have like those myths that we kind of all hear about that? Do you think that's also what held you back from maybe seeking out help?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I don't know, like medication's like really freaky, because like it's your brain is like you like essentially,
Right.
and you're taking stuff that affects that. Yeah, and like with medication, like literally like when things got bad, I was just like desperate, saying like I'm literally signing up for everything they have to offer, because like I got to try everything.
Right.
But even like when I was filling the prescription, like yeah, it was like a scary thing, because like it's literally something that's messing with your brain chemistry.
Right.